Hi, Melanie here, and I am going to show you how I used Modern Masters to get this look on this hutch right here. So I cleaned it off real good. First thing I did was I gave it a coat of Little Black Dress by Debbie's Design Diaries. Then I went back and I added in some Anchor by Wise Owl, give it a little blue there. And then I got some white, and I used Beadboard by DIY. So you can use paint or you can use the primer that Modern Masters sells, okay? So right now what I'm doing is putting a little bit of Crackle by Vaspar on there. I wasn't sure if it was going to show up after I did everything else to it, but I decided to give it a go and see if it did. And it did. It did show up a little bit. Okay, and so I knew that this was going to run, the paint was going to run, so what I did was I flipped it upside down. I decided that I wanted it to run the opposite direction of normal. So now what I'm doing is I have a sea sponge and I have some of the iron paint in that cup there. And I'm going ahead and applying it to the legs, dabbing with that sea sponge. The sea sponges are really nice because they give you a textured finish. If you use a paintbrush, you're going to get a very smooth finish, which will show through when we go ahead and apply our second coat here a little bit. So sea sponge is my go-to. A car sponge would work also. I suppose you could even use one of those green sponges that you clean your kitchen with. Anyways, you just want to create some texture. So I'm going to go with that sea sponge. So what I'm doing now is I'm just resting it up in areas that I feel like maybe over time would have rested by themselves if this was a metal piece. Alright, so now I have my copper paint out. You can see I'm applying it with a paintbrush. So I want to get full coverage on some of this. And then I'm going to go back with the sea sponge and give it some texture. So applying with the paintbrush, and whatever brush you use, make sure you don't like it or you don't want to save it. I just bought, this is a $2 brush that I bought at Home Depot, and I don't care if I throw it away. It's just, I wanted synthetic bristles. Chip brushes work well, but you know, you lose them sometimes, and I didn't want to deal with that this time around. So I am going ahead and just painting that on. And now you can see me going back with the sponge and giving it some texture, getting rid of any brush strokes that were there. And I'm just kind of working it in. So I'm just going to continue on this piece, doing the same procedure. Put the paint on, use the sea sponge to smooth out any brush strokes that may be there, give it some texture. And yeah, we'll just keep going with that. So it was important to me that I didn't cover up the entire paint job that I did underneath. If you can see there on the right hand side, there is some blue and some white still showing, some black here and there. I wanted to try to keep that, to try to add it to the finished look. Alright, so now that our paint dried completely, let it dry for about an hour and a half, now it's time to go back and apply our second layer. So this is, second layer is very important. It's going to be the one we apply a little heavier, and this is when we're going to start spraying our activators on it while it's still wet in order to get that paint to turn for us, okay? So I used mostly blue activator on this copper paint, and that is what I'm spraying on right now. I'll give you a link to those bottles that I'm using because they're amazing, and they work really well for this. So and then I'm going back with the sea sponge. So I sprayed some on my sea sponge, and I had the paint already on there, and then I'm putting it on, and that just really helps to activate it and to kind of make it, gosh, I guess just look different when you're done. It just kind of does its own thing, but it's just a really good way of assuring that most of it is going to turn for you for sure. So now that I have that nice and wet with the copper, I'm kind of going back and forth and putting a little bit more iron on there also, and spraying that as I go. So I started from the bottom and I'm moving up because as we spray, the sprays run down. So if I started at the top, then by the time I got to the bottom, it would just be, just a mess of paint and stuff, and I wouldn't have so much control over what I'm doing. So that is why I did that, but I am kind of alternating. So we got the copper, and then you will see me reach down and grab the rust, and then I will switch activators for each one, okay? So that is how that's going down. Just keep spraying. You want to keep it wet, and you want to keep some movement in order to keep this look. Up to those legs. And the legs are probably the funnest part because they just come out so cool. Just keep it up. Okay, we're putting a little bit more rust, and I'm going to go ahead and give those good squirts so that I get some rusty dripping down, running down the sides like it would if it was metal. Again, that's what I try to think of in my mind when I'm doing one of these. What would a metal chest look like? What would, a metal piece that was outside or in the ocean or whatever the case may be. So as I'm working, you can already see the paint starting to turn on those bottom panels. Towards the bottom, you can see the patina starting to happen, which is super fun and exciting. I don't know. I love it. I just think it's a very fun process. On a side note, make sure that you're wearing a mask, okay, and gloves. This stuff's, it's pretty hard to get off your hands, so gloves are pretty important. The fumes from the sprays can definitely make you cough and probably aren't too good for your lungs, so get a mask, okay? And that is what it looked like as it dried, upside down still. Then we flipped it over, and that is what it looked like up close. Pretty cool. I love it. And then there's another up closer, so then I brought it to the store and took a picture of it outside, and this is what it looks like in the store after I sealed it with polyvine satin.